Let's get ready to rumble! Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited to have you guys here today because I'm doing something that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Actually, since I first heard of this product. Now what I'm talking about is a Balcones Rumble. Now if you're not aware what Balcones is, or who Balcones is, they are a distillery down in Texas and they win award upon award for their whiskies. But a couple of years ago they made a very interesting combination, or they combined a few very interesting ingredients to create something completely out of their ballpark. It's called the Rumble. Now this is not exactly the Rumble, this is my guesstimation of what the Rumble is. If you go onto their website you will see there's only 3 ingredients in the Rumble. It is figs, which we have over here, honey, actually wildflower honey. This is raw honey that I got in the region, and then over here is some light brown sugar, or otherwise known as turbinado sugar. Hope I mispronounced that properly. And I divided it up into 3 equal parts. 1/3 of the sugar content that's going to go into the bucket will be from the figs, 1/3 will be from the honey, and 1/3 will be from the sugar. So yeah, we're going to try and make a rumble today. The yeast we'll be using is the Bootlegger's brandy yeast once again, because this yeast likes the fruity flavors, or it enhances the fruity flavors so much. I'm really hoping that the yeast will chow away at the fig flavors and just bring them to the front and to the foreground, because the fig has a very distinct but very subtle flavor. We hope these ones come out in the end product. Let's get into the recipe, or let's get into the process. First up, as always, let's rehydrate our yeast and get it nice and active so we can start the whole process. Once again, as always, tiny bit of sugar, a little bit of the water, not too much. And for this recipe I'm not going to use my yeast combo that I normally do, where I do a baker's yeast alongside the brewer's yeast or the distiller's yeast, because I don't want any flavor interference with this recipe. It's about 1 gram of yeast per liter. We're doing a 20-liter batch, so about 20 grams of yeast. This will go off to the side, and we are going to start with the recipe now. First up on the recipe we have figs. Now I have 3 kilograms of figs here. What I did with the figs is I put them into the freezer from fresh, allowed them to get frozen rock solid, and then I boiled the living heck out of them, so they are now nice and squishy, and all the membranes on the inside have broken down, so I can extract as much flavor as I can out of these figs. Now that's one of the tips that I give in my 5 quick tips for a fruit wash. I'll link the video right up here for if you want to see my 5 tips to improve your fruit washes. Now let's get into the figs. What we're going to do now is just going to quickly cut off these stems at the back, so we don't have any of that nasty bitter stems. It's only the nice sweet fleshy fruits. As always, everything nice and sanitized. Everything was pre-washed. The bowls, the buckets, everything was pre-washed before we start this whole process. Not that we as distillers really care about that, but rather safe than sorry, because most of the time there's a lot of expensive ingredients that go into making a wash like this, and you do not want to mess it up. So yeah, let's cut off all these little stemmy bobs. If you ever work with figs, remember these little stems at the back there, they might just add some bitterness, but hopefully by removing them, we're not going to have too much bitterness. So up next is the fun part and the messy part. I'm going to take these figs and I'm going to crush them with my hands first so I can get those skins nice and broken up. Then I'm going to add my sugar and my honey and then some water to get this all mixed up with my drill once again, so we can get everything nice and incorporated. And I just want to repeat one thing, that this is volume of sugar and not volume of product. So for the sugar, it is 1.3 kilograms of sugar. For the honey, it's 1.5 kilograms of honey. And for the fig, it's 3 kilograms of figs. All combined will give me roughly 4 kilograms of sugar within the wash. So don't calculate it on the net weight of, or the weight of the product. Calculate it on the sugar within the product. Then you'll have a more accurate recipe. Because if I only used 1.5 kilograms of figs, I would way undershoot my potential alcohol within this, and I will be overpowering the fig flavor with some of my other flavors within this recipe. Now I know someone in the comments is going to ask, why didn't I just blend up all the figs and why did I use my hands? The first time I worked with figs, I was taught that if you want to take the time and you want to peel each individual fig and then use it in whatever you're making, a fig mampoer or whatever, yes, you can blend it all up. But if you are lazy like me and you don't want to peel each individual fig, what you do is you just crush it and allow that center to open up, and that will allow the yeast and everything to go into the fruit to extract the flavors that you want, and you don't have to peel it. Because what's going to happen is if you blend it up using while keeping the skins on, you're going to incorporate that skin into your wash, and that's going to create a lot of bitterness. With this, you're going to minimize the chance or the risk of having a bitter end product while using figs. So if you want to use figs for any reason whatsoever, if you want to peel each individual one, go ahead, use the blender. If you don't want to peel each individual fig, then use it like I did and just use either a masher or your hands just to crush up the figs and allow everything to get nicely incorporated together. Next up, the honey. Now the honey is wild honey. I couldn't get wildflower honey within the region, but it is pure honey. Time for the sugar. Now this is light brown sugar with roughly about a 3% molasses content still in it. Yeah, it's just standard brown sugar you can buy at any grocery store. And yeah, that's what the internet says you can use as a substitute for turbinado sugar. Once again, hope I butchered that word. With all the ingredients in the bucket, now we need to dissolve our sugars, and that we will once again be using hot water for. Got my boiler at the back there cooking up or heating up, getting me some nice hot boiling water, just hot enough so I can dissolve the sugars. And yes, I did not invert the sugars. Reason for not inverting the sugars is I don't think this recipe calls for it. If it was a sugar only wash, yes, then I would invert my sugars, but I think there is more than enough nutrients in here for the yeast to chew through, so I do not have to invert my sugars. So yeah, let's get some hot water in there. I think about 5 liters of hot water would do well to get all the sugars dissolved. With everything nice and mixed up inside the bucket, it's time to add hot and cold water up until we reach our pitch temperature. Because we're using bootleggers, we are shooting for something over 30 degrees centigrade, because this stuff or this yeast likes high temperatures. Luckily we still smack dab in summer here in South Africa, so I don't need any external heating source to keep this nice and toasty. So what we're going to do is just add our hot and cold water up until we can pitch our yeast. Now if you have stuck around up until here, please remember to hit that subscribe button down in the corner there if you like this kind of content. If you want to see more videos like this where we try and recreate some, not recreate, but try and figure out the recipe for some of your favorite drinks, hit that like button or a comment down below, so we know what kind of content we need to produce. So yeah, let's get into adding our water so we can pitch our yeast, get this lid on, because I for one can't wait for this stuff to be done. Okay, we're sitting smack dab on 32.7, almost 33 degrees centigrade. So that is perfect for the bootlegger's yeast to go crazy. Let's pitch our yeast. Now, if you want to get your hands on some of these yeast, I'll post a link to the Facebook page for bootleggers if you want to get in contact with Anton, so you can get your hands on some of his bootleggers yeast. Okay, what I'm going to do now is give this one quick last stir, get the lid on, and get this baby to start fermenting.